We're going to talk about non-alcoholic liquor.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel where I like to experience everything that life has to offer. Currently, I'm doing a dry January, and I've tried a lot of non-alcoholic beverages, non-alcoholic cocktails or mocktails. I've done a bunch of videos about non-alcoholic beers and a lot more. And as you can see, we have 5 different non-alcoholic liquors. I'm going to talk about these as non-alcoholic alternatives, I'll say that, have been getting a lot more popular, right? Of course, back in the day, I feel like it was just O'Doul's in terms of like a non-alcoholic counterpart to the alcoholic counterpart. But now though, non-alcoholic wines and champagnes and everything have gotten significantly more popular, including liquors. And I gotta say, I'm very transparent and honest in all my videos. These non-alcoholic liquors are awesome. There's a bunch of companies out there that have made non-alcoholic liquors, like Ritual, Monday is one. There's a bunch of different companies. And I gotta be honest that out of all the companies, like Free Spirits is my favorite in terms of their entire collection. I will say though, being honest, that some companies do have a specific better alternative if I had to compare like each individual liquor. And in this video, of course, I do want to talk about each non-alcoholic liquor, which ones I like and don't like, and just how they taste overall, which is the most important thing, of course. And then I'm going to talk about my experience with non-alcoholic liquor, like how does it compare to non-alcoholic beer, etc., etc. I tried to kind of put these all in the same shot. Guess pun intended, just realized that. We have non-alcoholic bourbon, non-alcoholic gin, non-alcoholic sweet vermouth, non-alcoholic Milano, and then non-alcoholic tequila. And the benefit of non-alcoholic liquor, as you can imagine, is you're not having any alcohol, so it's a lot healthier for you. You can still drive, you're saving a ton of money. I will say that, of course, like not spending tons of money in Lyfts and Ubers. Definitely saves you a lot more money, a lot healthier for you. In addition, when it comes to the nutritional facts, most non-alcoholic liquors, I'd say about between like 5 and 20 calories for only one shot. Usually only a couple grams of sugar. That's about it. In addition, each one of these have vitamin B3 and B6 as an added benefit. So of course, a lot healthier in general than regular alcohol. Now let's get into the taste though. That's probably the main reason why you're watching this video. Let's talk about the taste. For me personally, like I said, you have 3 different options mainly. Maybe there's more, but 1, you do it as a shot, right? 2, you drink it straight or neat, or 3, you do it in a mixed drink. And what's interesting is for some of these, I prefer drinking them straight. Other ones I prefer more of a shot. Other ones I prefer more of a mixed drink, not even because of taste, but because of the type of liquor. So my favorite, you can probably tell, because I've tried all of these, of course, and been having them, is the non-alcoholic bourbon. I will be drinking each one of these on camera, just so I can be very descriptive about the taste. So I do want to be careful here. I know bourbon drinkers, I feel like out of any of these, I think bourbon drinkers take their bourbon more seriously than any other type of liquor. So one thing I will say about the bourbon that I like is I feel like out of any of these, I feel like I don't usually sip tequila or Milano or gin. I feel like bourbon, though, is the type of liquor I would sip. So you may notice I've had most of the bourbon. I say out of any of these, the bourbon's my favorite because it's a more of a sippable type liquor. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm gonna have some now on camera just so I can be super like descriptive. On the front of the bourbon bottle, it says a rich oaky bourbon alternative with natural flavor notes of sweet corn, vanilla, and a kick of B vitamins. So you can see this is how it looks. Okay. Now sipping it, it does have a little bit of a kick at the end. There is almost like a, think of it almost like having like a low-key spicy food. Not super, super spicy, but like a subtle spicy food blended with like a classic bourbon type taste. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a good palate for bourbon whatsoever, so I'm gonna stress that. Gonna have another taste, like I feel like as I said, but like I said, there is like a slight kick. I use the word very, very slight, so it does kind of make you feel like you're getting the burn. I know a lot of people talk about that when it comes to having like non-alcoholic liquor, because as opposed to beer, I feel like the oral fixation of beer is more of the carbonation, of course the hops and everything, which non-alcoholic beer just have. With liquor, I know that some people do like that oral sensation of the kind of burn. I'd say this more is like, the best way I can word it is like a low-key bourbon. That's how I'd best describe it, because if you're looking for that full-on, aggressive, if I'd use that right word, intense bourbon taste, I wouldn't say this has that full-on, but this has an excellent bourbon taste, and I know people might have different opinions on that, but for me, I love it. Being honest, I love it because I like the fact that I can sip it and do work. It makes me kind of feel like I'm drinking, so to speak, in a sense. So it does help, at least for me, simulate the real thing, like say when I'm not drinking, like I'm not now, to like say be doing some work, be sipping something like this, because like I said, I would typically not sip any of these other liquors, but I would sip the non-alcoholic bourbon. And like I said, this is honestly my favorite one, and I gotta give him credit that I feel like making, in my opinion, a non-alcoholic tequila, I feel like I can see how that would kind of come about. With things like agave and whatnot, I can kind of see the process, but I feel like bourbon is a very, very difficult liquor to emulate in a non-alcoholic form, and I think this does an excellent job. Next up, we have the non-alcoholic gin. Ironically, gin is one of my favorite liquors. I'd say it goes like tequila, then vodka. Actually, no, I'd say mezcal now, which technically is tequila. So mezcal, then tequila, maybe vodka, then gin, then everything else. And on that note, I actually like bourbon the least. Not saying I don't like it, but it's not my preferred liquor. So it's ironic that bourbon's actually my favorite non-alcoholic counterpart, yet the alcohol, I prefer something a bit different. So we have the gin right here, right? So again, I'm gonna have it on camera just to refresh my palate. And like I said, gin, I typically drink as very rarely, sometimes I'll do a shot of it, but I say typically gin and tonic's my go-to. I feel like out of any mixed drink, even though I prefer like say mezcal or tequila more, a nice gin and tonic on a summer day with like a solid lime and lemon. I mean, I like the kind of citrusy aspect as well. So aggressive lime, aggressive lemon, maybe a mint in there if I want to be a little, if I want to mix things up a little bit, right? So cheers. And the best way I can describe this gin is one, it does have, like I said, a slight kick. Two, it doesn't feel as much, at least to me, as a dry gin. You know, right here it says flavor notes of citrus and juniper with a kick of B vitamins. I mean, the B vitamins exist in every one. More of a drier gin, right? So this is definitely not, at least from my palate perspective, not as much of a dry gin. It tastes like a blend, if I had to be honest, which is very interesting. This, to me, tastes like a citrusy gin and tonic. If I'm having a mixed drink, or let's say I want the sensation of having like a full mixed drink, not just like a shot that I sip neat, this actually, even just over ice with maybe even just a lime, like if someone handed me this at a bar with ice in it and a lime and said, hey, try this gin and tonic I just ordered, I'm like, oh yeah, it tastes like a gin and tonic. That's how this one comes off to me. It doesn't taste as much like a gin as it tastes more like a gin mixed drink, if that makes sense. So it's very citrusy, so it has that kind of juniper taste in it as well. Of course, if let's say you're not a fan of combining gin with like say citrusy type elements, you know, I don't think you would like this as much. But for me, I actually love this because like I said, I could probably have this with a bunch of ice in it and it would kind of taste like a non-alcoholic gin and tonic. Next up, we have the non-alcoholic vermouth. I'm going to be honest and very transparent. I never have vermouth. So just want to be very honest about that right away. In terms of the label, it says a bold, sweet vermouth alternative with natural flavor notes of spice, dark fruit, and a kick of B vitamins. And what's tough about this one, being honest, is it's tough for me to give an exact indication of like, oh, this is really accurate to the real thing or not. Just being honest. But like I said, it is considered more of a sweet vermouth. And nothing too, by the way, I want to say is you can combine these. There's a couple different ways you can drink these. Like I said, of course, like I said, shot, neat, or mixed drink, I feel like are the main three. But also, you can kind of mix and match. Maybe you do a non-alcoholic type drink that involves multiple of these. Another thing that I know has been suggested is you could always do like a half and half. Let's say you do want to drink liquor, but you don't want to go too all out. Maybe you have, I'm making this up, like say, margarita, I'm making that up. Where you could do, let's say, one shot of the free spirits tequila or a non-alcoholic tequila, and then one shot of real tequila. But anyway, let's have some vermouth. So cheers. A bit sweeter, a little bit of a kick, with an odd kind of finish. Again, I'm not a vermouth drinker. I feel like if someone handed me this, and this is what I always try to think of. I'm at a bar, I'm talking with people, I'm having drinks. If someone handed me this, what would be my honest reaction? To me, this kind of tastes like an alcoholic liqueur. Where, I'm being honest, if someone handed me this at a bar and said, oh, you gotta try this new liqueur, it's only 15 or 20% alcohol, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me try a sip. I don't think I would know that there's no alcohol in it. So this one, to me, is closer to the quote-unquote tasting like the real thing, as opposed to some of these other ones, which is kind of interesting, you know, because like I said, the bourbon's my favorite, but if anything, I'd say this one tastes closer to real alcohol, if I'd call it that, than the bourbon one. So it is interesting that different non-alcoholic liquors can kind of satisfy different aspects of drinking more than others, if that's the best way to word it. Like I said, I love the bourbon one neat, But the gin one, I'd rather have in a mixed drink format, for example. This one, I feel like I could do it in both a mixed drink or as drinking it neat. Although I will say, although I do like the taste, I think this is definitely more of a mixed drink one for me. Next up, we have the Spirit of Milano. They nail this taste. Here's what's unfortunate, and I don't want to get some hate from my like Italian ancestors, because obviously I'm very Italian. Out of any of these, I think this is the most accurate to tasting like alcohol, being honest. On the other end, if I had to rank these in terms of favorites, this would be the last, as I don't like, I know I'm probably gonna get some hate from my like Italian relatives, but I don't usually like that kind of Negroni, Italian, Aperitivo type taste, right? For me personally. However, I can acknowledge that this, I think out of these 5 that I've been talking about, is in my opinion, the most accurate one. As it says on the front of the bottle, a vibrant, bittersweet Aperitivo with natural flavor notes of bright citrus, spice, and a kick of B vitamins. So we're gonna pour a little bit. First off, I like the color too, by the way. As opposed to the other ones, you know, you have some clearer, darker ones. Nice little red color right there. Just gonna pour a little bit, and then cheers. That one nails it. Like a bitter juice, I think is a good maybe way I would word that. It's a bit sweet, but with like a little bit of a bitter finish. If you're looking to make like a Negroni, whatever, I think this one nails that kind of perfect aspect of being a little bit sweet, but also a little bit bitter at the same time. And that's why I think this one is incredibly accurate. The taste of these type of like Italian Aperitivo, Negroni type flavor profiles, not my favorite, being honest, which is ironic because I do love Fernet Branca. I've done a video about the Fernet Branca coin as well that I have. So it's kind of ironic that I love Fernet Branca, but something like this, I'm just not the biggest fan of. And again, I do want to stress, this tastes the most accurate, in my opinion, at least in my opinion, out of all these. However, I'm just not a fan of this taste overall. And last, but definitely not least, slide all the way over, tequila. An earthy, reposado-style tequila alternative with natural flavored notes of agave, oak, and a kick of B vitamins. I like this one a lot. I actually like taking a shot of the most. Probably because I like taking shots of tequila or mezcal than any other liquor, right? So, I'm gonna have this one, and I like this one, right? I think it's excellent, so, put it in here. Cheers. So first off, I will say, before you even go to sip it, you can immediately smell the tequila type taste. In addition, I do also like it's more of a reposado style. Reposado is actually my favorite type of tequila. In case you didn't know, tequila has different levels, if I call it that, when it comes to aging. So Blanco is like pretty much not aged in a sense. Reposado is the next level, then Añejo, and the list goes on and on. This, I'd say to me, has a very almost like peppery tequila type taste. That's the best way I can word it. That's why for me, when it comes to this one, I feel like I can sip it, but I kind of prefer not to. I feel like this type of one I'd rather have in a margarita, because it does have a very forefront, like peppery, agave type taste, but also in a shot because of the kind of, if I call it, I don't say the word complexity, but because of the full body taste to it, I feel like if I do a shot of this is the one, at least to me, that makes me feel like I'm doing a shot more than any other non-alcoholic liquor. Because it kind of does simulate that feeling in terms of that little kick, like I said, which all these have, that kind of peppery, agave, sweet type taste. I will say it has definitely more of a tequila taste though as well on the reposado side. Like I will say, I do love tequila because I have tried some other non-alcoholic tequilas that actually tasted more like mezcal. So I do want to say that like if you're looking for more of a tequila type taste, this is your go-to. I've tried other companies that they were more on the mezcal side, so I guess it depends on what you want. In some cases, I actually like this tequila taste. In other cases, I prefer the mezcal type taste, and more depends on what I'm looking for in that moment. Well, that all being said, I now want to talk about my experience drinking non-alcoholic liquor, because it is unique, just in general. I bet even for people watching this video, you probably saw the title and you're like, wait, non-alcoholic liquor? And I gotta say, it depends upon the person, but this is something that I do actually genuinely love. I will say, if I had to compare, and I'm very honest in all my videos, I think non-alcoholic beer, way more accurate to the real thing than non-alcoholic liquor. There's no question there. I did a video with the Heineken 00 beer, for example, arguably the most famous and popular non-alcoholic beer. Also, as a side note, the Heineken 00 beer is the only beer I've ever seen that they actually have commercials 4, I compared the alcoholic Heineken to the non-alcoholic Heineken, and it was very difficult to tell the difference. There are so many non-alcoholic beers that taste exactly, almost identical to the real thing. I think when it comes to non-alcoholic liquor, I gotta be honest, it doesn't taste as close as non-alcoholic beer. So I will say that, being honest. For me though, I do like the flexibility of non-alcoholic liquor. For me personally as well, I am more of a liquor drinker than a beer drinker. And when it comes to the non-alcoholic liquor, you can have it as a shot, you could have it neat, just sipping it, you could have it in a mixed drink, like I said. I'm pretty sure those are the 3 main ways, right? Is there any other way to have it that I'm forgetting? I'm not sure. And as you saw from the first part of this video, it is kind of cool that certain non-alcoholic liquors solve different styles, if that's the right word, where if let's say I want to have something and I just want to sip it, and that's it, the non-alcoholic bourbon is my way to go, right? I feel like bourbon in general is more of a sipping liquor. If let's say I want to have a shot, definitely the non-alcoholic tequila, right? Because I feel like for me, I mostly do shots of tequila. Then let's say if I want to have more of a mixed drink type taste, the non-alcoholic gin, because I love gin and tonics. And with that being said, I do want to answer this general question. How accurate is it? I gotta be honest, right? Let's say if you had to have a scale of 1 through 10, just non-alcoholic liquor in general. I've tried a lot of different companies. And if I had to give a scale where I'm like, okay, 10 being like it tastes exactly like the real thing, 1 being not even close, I'd say depending on the non-alcoholic liquor, anywhere between 4 and 6. That's my honest review. I think when it comes to non-alcoholic beer, I mean, there is a spectrum, but I'd say for most, I'd say 7 to 10. There are some non-alcoholic beers I genuinely would not be able to tell that there's no alcohol in it. Then again, the process of creating non-alcoholic beer and beer is kind of similar. With non-alcoholic liquor, it's more of an imitation, so to speak, if that makes more sense. So when it comes to non-alcoholic liquor, I'm gonna be honest. If you're looking to buy non-alcoholic liquor and be ripping shots, and it tastes exactly like the real thing with that burn I know some people love or whatever, it might not be as close as you want it to be. Then again, you might be surprised of how close some of these are. Now, one last thing I do have to say as a side note, as more of like a warning or just something to bring up, and I do want to mention this, is it does depend upon the person if it's a good idea or not. Now, I did a video a while ago where I talked about the dangers of non-alcoholic beer. And the main point I gave in that video was this. If you talk to a lot of addiction counselors and everything, and I want to stress, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a licensed professional, none of that. I never pretend to be one in any of my videos. If you talk to a lot of counselors, especially who, let's say, deal with alcohol addiction, they actually tell people to shy away from non-alcoholic beer because it could be a bit triggering, right? Like it tastes like beer, it simulates like beer, you're getting that oral fixation. It's so close to the real thing that it could be that first breadcrumb that actually starts you drinking again. On the other end, and depends upon the person, being honest, it could be the thing that satisfies your craving. For me, for example, when going sober, like I'm doing this month, when I have non-alcoholic beer, it does satisfy that craving where I'm like, hey, I'm sipping a beer, I'm in public, like the Heineken 00 bottle, for example, looks just like regular Heineken. In addition, I've had people comment on this channel and who I've talked to in person who have said, yeah, you know what? I had a problem drinking. I've been sober for 10 years. The Heineken 00 beer or this other non-alcoholic beer satisfies my craving. It's perfect. I don't even think about the fact that I'm not drinking. On the other end, like I said, there could be some people who drink it and are like, ooh, this tastes really close to the real thing, and that could be the first breadcrumb. And now bringing this back to non-alcoholic liquor, it's kind of the same situation. For some people, let's say you love taking shots or sipping something neat, or making mixed drinks. Maybe you like the whole mixology, right, of making a mixed drink. This could easily and very, very efficiently satisfy that urge, especially with all the varieties of non-alcoholic liquors that are out there. On the other end though, for some people, maybe you start doing a couple shots of, let's say, the non-alcoholic tequila, and you're like, it tastes kind of like the real thing, but it's not exactly there. And then that's kind of the first breadcrumb that kind of makes you want to kind of scratch that itch of having the real thing, and one thing leads to another. So I do suggest, again, I want to stress, I'm not a licensed professional or a therapist, counselor, psychologist, none of that. Always consult with a licensed professional. Who knows too? Maybe for some people, non-alcoholic beer is triggering, but for other people it's not. Maybe it's the exact opposite. Maybe for you, you can drink non-alcoholic beer, but the second you maybe try non-alcoholic liquor, maybe that is a thing for you that's like, oof, It tastes kind of good. I kind of missed the real thing. So that is one thing I do want to say as a side note, just in case. I like to be very honest and transparent in my videos. But for me personally, I got to say, I love non-alcoholic liquor, especially because I prefer liquor over beer just in general. For example, I did a video recently where I went out bar hopping, or I'd say non-alcoholic bar hopping, having non-alcoholic beverages, and at the end of the night, I had a mixed drink or a mocktail with non-alcoholic gin. It was the Ritual non-alcoholic gin that the bar had a mixed drink. The mixed drink turned out amazing. It was almost like a spicy watermelon type taste with some gin. It was incredible. It was actually super, super good. And I was hanging out at the bar, talking with everybody, having my non-alcoholic mixed drink. And I gotta say, I loved it. And overall, when it comes to non-alcoholic liquor, I feel like compared to non-alcoholic beer, most people are like, yeah, O'Doul's, the Heineken O, etc. But any single time I've talked about non-alcoholic liquor, people are like, wait, non-alcoholic tequila? Or non-alcoholic bourbon? Like, what are you talking about? And overall, just gotta say, don't knock it till you try it.